the Jazz Loft Band there, bring us into our next interview. And this morning, I'm very pleased to host a lady who's a pioneer in the bridal makeup profession in Nigeria. She launched the first bridal directory in 1999, set up international stand-up makeup studios, and established the first makeup school in Nigeria. She's the founder and CEO of House of Tara International and creator of the Tara Orekelewa beauty range, inspired perfume, and the HIP beauty range. It's none other than Tara Fela Dorutoye. She's a beauty entrepreneur, and she's in Kenya for one very major reason. But before we get into why she's here, we need to find out who she is and where she's from. A very good morning to you, Tara.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for coming. You are a lawyer by profession, but you don't practice law. Maybe in the office when you're signing contracts here and there and trying to understand what your contracts are about. But what many people know you for is this makeup artist who came to be a beauty entrepreneur. How did that happen?
And thank you for having me. It's always great to be in Nairobi. I love the weather.
Karibu. Even the rain?
Yes. Well, I love the cold as opposed to the heat in Nigeria and the humidity. So it's always great. And I love the plants and flowers and green.
Nice.
So it's always exciting to be here. So my journey as a makeup artist started while I was an undergraduate in university. My friends liked the way I did my makeup, and they wanted me to do the same. And Nigerians were very enterprising. So someone said to me, "Why don't you start this as a business?" And I thought, I don't know about doing that. But then people became willing to pay for the service. And I grew from and focused on bridal makeup. And weddings are very big, as you know, in Africa generally. And so we have like multiple occasions, engagement parties, night parties, the white wedding, and all of that. And so it became a flourishing business for me. And today it's become an industry where people are starting up their career as makeup artists. And their parents are almost saying, you know what, if Tara did it, then you can.
Let's talk about parents, because I want to know how your parents took it. Knowing that you're from Africa, knowing that you're from, a school of thought where you have to be a lawyer, you have to be a doctor, you have to be an engineer to be able to, make it. And this is something most people struggle with, because you have formal education, your parents have taken you to the schools, then you wake up one day and say, you know what, I really want to be a makeup artist. Your parents must have been upset, livid.
Actually, I think I'm one of the few lucky ones.
Okay.
My mom studied fine arts in a time where that wasn't, the sort of subjects that people studied. So I think that helped us to have a paradigm shift in our home. My father was a historian, so he loved the arts. And I also loved the arts. So it was from that journey of loving the arts and expressing myself. Unfortunately, that's not standard in Africa. We still have issues where I still got a text message from an employee saying, I had to leave the job because I'm having family challenges. And the family challenge was referring to was my father is putting me under pressure. Because still some parents don't see the industry, they don't see beauty as a real business. Unfortunately, this is a multi-billion-dollar business, but you know what?
Worldwide.
Yes, and unfortunately, we still lack that understanding for some people. I'm happy that there's a shift taking place, also because more parents are, adopting football, adopting the sports as a career path for their children. But I think that the most important thing is sharing your passion. You have to be significantly passionate about what it is that you're doing, and that passion becomes infectious. And when you have one success and two success, talk about it, share it, don't hide it, be excited about it, because passion is infectious.
Times are changing, like you said, and people are becoming more aware that you could actually make money from being a makeup artist, from being a footballer, from being a musician. But I just want to see or hear your thoughts when it comes to what they call formal education, getting that degree or getting that master's. Do you think it is important?
I totally agree. I think it's so important. And I think that getting that formal education, for me, it's a bedrock. It's a foundation. I'm very glad that I'm educated. I'm very glad I got a professional degree. And I think it also helps you in different skills. So, for example, you go into university and you get an education academically, but then you have to socialize. You have to meet deadlines. deadlines. So you find that people are employed today and they can't meet deadlines because they haven't learned how to submit an assignment, right? Those are some of the exercises that you learn. You build your first network of people who can. So my first customer came from the university campus saying to me, my cousin is getting married, she needs a makeup artist, can you do her makeup? And so that's where your network also is. That by the side in terms of social, then academically, your mind, your ability to be able to think beyond, break new barriers, thinking in the business, how to grow it. Some of those exercises, that stretch comes from sitting down in an exam, having to study, putting case studies together, making a presentation. These are some of the skills that one gets at when you're educated. So the difference between someone who's well educated and someone who's not well educated but just has a skill, you can always tell the difference.
Okay. Having been in this industry or in the business of entrepreneurship for quite a number of years, what do you think is what do you think are some of the things that hold women back from moving forward? And like you said, finding your passion, but then there's that fear that you want to try it out, but you know what, might as well just stick here, safe waters, let me not explore.
So this journey is 18 years. I've been in business for 18 years, and my experience with women is a fear of not succeeding. And I always say to people that you need to surround yourself with other successful women.
But what if I don't have access to the success? It's
not possible not to have access. So you're always 2 persons away from the person you're looking for. You have to. It's first of all a paradigm shift. You have to have it behind your mind. When you have a mindset, I don't know if you read the book Secrets. It's the law of attraction. The more you think about it, the easier it becomes for you to more or less like collide with such people. But there has to be a deliberate attempt to seek and to search for women who've become successful. Sometimes not even so closely, but it's about watching all their videos, watching all their, listening to their podcasts, reading their books, but feeding your mind sufficiently with other women who have succeeded, who have taken broken barriers, borders, and feeding your mind. And the mind is so powerful that what you feed your mind with is the outcome that you have. So fear is there, but then faith increases as much as we expose ourselves to the right information.
So for you say a deliberate action has to be made for you to be able to get out of that comfort zone, that place where you want to move out of but you don't want to move. Another thing that most women struggle with is the work-life balance. Because again, you don't want to be this person who is away from home too many days in a month because you have little babies or you have children, you have a husband. How do you manage that? Because you're married and you talk about relationships and marriages as well. How do you balance that?
I think for the first most important thing is marrying right.
Marrying right, I like that.
That's like the first most important thing. You can't really succeed in your business and succeed in your family life if you don't marry right. One of my mentors always talks about the fact that I can't even give you business advice if you are having issues at home, because every time, the time you should be thinking about growing your business, you're consumed with your emotional problems, and as long as you have those emotional problems, it becomes easier or more difficult for you to run a successful business. So it's marrying right at the first instance. Secondly, it's carrying your spouse along on the journey. So it's not necessarily that both of you own the company, but in terms of ideas, in terms of what you want to do next, seeking counsel, seeking collaboration, seeking thoughts, and also being a part of what your spouse is also equally doing. So there's that trade by barter in a sense, where you are talking about what you want to do, he's talking about what he wants to do. You are showing concern and interest, genuine interest in what he's doing as well, and so you're getting the same back. And except you have that support from your spouse. You remember the book Leaning that was written by the CEO, the CEO of Facebook, and I totally agree with some of the concepts in that book, which is for you to be able to go on a journey. I'm here in Kenya today, but my husband is at home with my son. And we've always had that relationship where we sort of plan our calendars around each other. He's also very busy, and so when he's away, I'm at home. When I'm away, he's at home. That relationship, that communication within the spouse is so critical.
So there has to be some sort of friendship There has to be some sort of balance and understanding for it to be successful. You've talked about mentorship, something that you value very seriously. You do a lot of it back in Nigeria. I think about 4,000 girls under your program. Let's understand the importance of finding a mentor. And both business when it comes to entrepreneurship and even corporate life, because we need to accept the fact that not all of us are going to be entrepreneurs. You know, some of us are going to rise the corporate ladder. The importance of getting myself a mentor.
We just had this conversation earlier on when I said to you that I think about some of the errors I would have made and mistakes I would have made if I didn't have a mentor or mentors. For example, you know, I didn't realize that I could build a multi-billionaire business and be poor. My mentor said it to me, Tara, you got into a place where you need to build your personal wealth. It didn't occur to me. My mentor called me once and said to me, you know, the amount of time you're putting into business, you have to realize that you cannot define your success by House of Tara's success because you're a different entity. I was upset because I had tied my success and my feelings to House of Tara. Until that moment when she said that to me, I think about having a sinking fund. My mentor was the first person that said to me, you need to have an emergency fund at every point in time. You need to have between 6 to 8 months of what your salary will be in savings, so that if there's a crisis situation, you have this is how to handle. You know, if I didn't have those sort of guidance, taking care of my health, my mentor was very particular about checking up and have you done your yearly checkup. I didn't even think about that because I was consumed with building my business and being a mother and being a successful, present wife. And these are some of the things I've learned from my mentors. And so I look back at my life and I can't imagine if I didn't have those guidance, what it would be like for me. So what was I looking for in a mentor? I was looking for people who had succeeded in the same journey that I have, that I'm going on.
Same journey of entrepreneurship.
Yes. Okay. So entrepreneurship is a significant part of my life. It was important for me to. So my mentor, for example, has 9 companies. She owns a company in Italy. So she's built businesses across borders. She has partnerships in France and in Nigeria as well. She currently sits on the board of the biggest bank in Nigeria, a bank of over 100 years. She's successfully married, has 3 sons like I do. So there are a lot of similarities in terms of our relationship and what she's been able to achieve. So I'm looking for someone who has also had similar value systems. And before she became my mentor, it wasn't that I went to her and I said, I want you to be my mentor. It was that we had a relationship, a friend, what we'll call an aburo relationship. So in Nigeria, aburo means your younger sister, someone who cares, who looks out for you. And so, but as we grew on in that relationship, it became clear that she had become a guardian to me. And so I started to call her my mentor. So there wasn't any formal request. So it's important to have someone who you have a chemistry with as well. You meet them, you have a conversation. The first time I met her was I was looking for a bank loan, and we're going to be talking about some of the challenges that women have in trying to build a business. It was the first time I was seeking a bank loan. I was refused. Now she had a company that a bank in Nigeria had shares in. So I walked up to her at an event and I said, Auntie, I have a challenge. I'm looking for ₦500,000 for this and this and this, and unfortunately the bank has refused to give it to me. And she said to me, I will speak to the MD of the bank. So a mentor can also be a sponsor, and that's what she did. She picked up the phone, called the MD of the bank and said, I'm going to send you this young girl, right? I've seen her start a business from scratch and I've seen what she's done. So you also have to be building your brand, and people become attracted to someone who's also successful to a degree. So she was watching my story as well, and that's why she could make that call and say to the MD, this person has this ability. So I got the chance to meet the MD of this big bank in Nigeria, small business owner. I wasn't generating that much, but she saw the potential, and so she opened that door for me. I had the meeting with the MD of the bank. He said to me, your story is the kind of story that our bank would like to be part of. But before I got there, she said to me, when you arrive, he's going to ask you questions about your numbers. He will ask you about your profit margins, your net profit, your gross profit margins. These are questions you may not be able to answer, but I know you have a general manager. Take him with you, but make sure you tell him where you have been, where you're coming from, where you are now, and where you're going to. And so I drafted my presentation with that guideline. And so I was able to sell the story. So we need to learn how to tell our own story. You need to sit down in front of the mirror and inspire yourself with your own story.
And let's go now to that issue of capital. A lot of women who want to venture, or a lot of people really who want to venture into the world of entrepreneurship, cite lack of capital as one of the biggest challenges. You started your business when you were still in undergrad school. Where did the money come from? At what point were you going to the bank to ask the bank for money? Do I need to have done 3 years before I go to the bank? Can I go to the bank on day one and tell them, listen, I have this fantastic idea, can you front me some cash?
Well, I'm of the school of thought where I think that you're better off starting off with your own internal finance, right? Especially if it's in a business that you don't know anything. So, for example, makeup artistry, beauty wasn't a business that was well known, so I couldn't have even gone to the bank because the bank would not even have given me, right? It was just internal, and it was $100, the equivalent at the time, 15,000 naira. I started with, and I always think that we have enough to start from where we are. We need to start to think about building our businesses, starting small, because there's so much learning that you can learn on that journey. Now, not everybody starts small. Some people have the opportunity to get investors from the onset. Some other people have the opportunity to get bank loan. But if you can't get it, you have to always think that look within. Look within. So I always looked within, and I built the business organically. I had the habit of always banking on my money. And so I had a track record. So by the time I was seeing the MD of that bank, which was almost maybe about 6-7 years after I had done the business, he saw a consistent history of banking. And he could see the trends. And so some of these things are things that we have to have when we're going off to the bank. The bank needs to see that you're disciplined, and that you're someone who even if they wanted to get your money, they would have access to it because you'll be banked. And so I have that history of banking all my cash, and I think that definitely played a huge role in the bank deciding to finance us at the time.
Another thing you've talked about is branding and positioning oneself. You speak highly about creating a global brand for yourself. What's the importance of doing that? And more importantly for me is, how then do you change the mindset? Coming from, Kerigo is a shy person. Kerigo does not like, exposing herself, quote unquote. But here you are telling her, for her to be excellent, for her to be at 110%, to leave her potential, is for her to become a global brand. Global to me is worldwide. How do we,
I don't think, our personalities, our passions, and our purpose are all tied to how successful we can become. Our personalities are all different. We're not all going to be the face of a brand, like Richard Branson, right? We're not all going to be a face of a brand. There's some of us who our message would be our message, and pushing our message is what we need to stay. So if, yes, you're shy, and yes, you are introverted, you need to focus on the business. Right, the message of the business. So I started off as a makeup artist, and I was the business for a long time. Today, House of Tara is an independent business by itself. Without my name, you can still do things. But at that time, it required, my brand was me. And it's part of my personality. I'm extroverted. I like people. I like to talk about what I'm doing. So we're all different, but we always have to. And in terms of building a global brand, as Africans, there is a narrative about our continent. We are responsible for changing that narrative, and we have to use our businesses as a platform for making that change.
Okay. So, like you said, you're extroverted. You like being out there. So you say, for me who doesn't like being out there, is get something that will speak on my behalf. Look for something that will speak on my behalf, something that will take me to the next level. You have a very impressive resume, extremely impressive. But I'd want to know, has Tara fallen down? And if she did, how did she come back? What was the secret? What is the secret?
So you mentioned earlier on, you talked about having the first bridal directory.
Yes.
Yeah. So I launched the first bridal directory, but I couldn't launch a second edition. And I launched that in 1998. So it's almost, God knows how many years after, over 10 years after. I wasn't able to, because I realized that it wasn't something that I was good at doing. It was a lot of stress. It required too much of my attention, and required too much of work that I wasn't willing to give to it. So that's one of the things I failed at. You talked about the Inspired perfume. I launched it when House of Tara was 10 years old. We haven't been able to reproduce it because it didn't do well in the market. And the question is, how did I get up? For me, I have other things that have been successful. I focus on those. I embraced the things that I failed at because I then learned some of the things. I learned a lot of things about myself. I think that sometimes we beat ourselves too much. I'm a Christian, so generally I always talk about things that I've learned on my journey. And one of the things is to learn to encourage yourself. No one else can. You have to. So when you fall, you need to be able to wake up in the morning, take a bath, have a nice shower, come out and say, yes, this is what I failed at, accept it. This is what I learned when I failed. And now it's time to move on. To the extent that when you talk about that failure, it becomes attractive and sexy.
How many times, I mean, I'm trying to understand the makeup line, you know, something like a makeup line. Did you fall and burn your fingers? This is chemistry we're talking about, trying to mix powders here and there, trying to get the, you know, correct palettes. How did you wake up from that? Seeing as you're so passionate, but then when you get the sample, you're looking at it and you're like, no, this is not what I...
Yeah. So yes, it's great to have a chemistry background. Estee Lauder had not a chemistry background, but had an uncle that had a chemistry background.
Yes.
But guess what? The world has changed in such a way that there are OEM factories all around the world. You don't have to be a chemistry graduate. And even if you're a chemistry graduate, does not mean that you are able to produce a product that can be successful and can have a great brand. So we need to see beyond chemistry. What is it that you want to do? Find and sourcing the factories that can do it for you. But the most important thing is getting the quality right, and ensuring that the quality speaks to your values and your message. Whatever that message is what is being spoken through your product.
Now, there's a reason as to why you're here in Kenya. Very exciting event you have planned for tomorrow. Maybe you can tell us more about Power Talks.
So Power Talks Women is a new initiative by Power Talks, a consulting organization here in Kenya, and they've invited me because they have a theme called Branding Beyond Borders, and I think they wanted to have a more continental voice within the platform, and they have women from Kenya and other East African countries, and then myself from from West Africa. So it's very exciting to be here. I see similarities. One of the reasons why I agreed to come is because I see a lot of similarities in Power Talks Women, and they are very they're very fixated on empowered women for national transformation. So it's great. We want to empower women. That's what they say. They want to empower women. I am constantly empowering women. My entire business model is about empowering women. I've empowered over 5,000 women to become financially independent by developing their micro-entrepreneurship. So that's a similarity. I'm seeing that Power Talks also is saying when you are then empowered as a woman, you need to give back. And so they're creating a narrative around how do women who have been empowered give back to their society? How do they give back to the younger next generation to become empowered as well? So that as you're going along, which is the story of my mentors, is as they go along becoming more successful, becoming richer, becoming more balanced in their homes, they're holding me along the journey and saying, this is what I've done right, this is where I messed up, don't make that mistake, work on it. And that's exactly what Power Talks Women is. So I'm very excited to share my experience with a group of women about branding and how it's important that we brand our businesses in a way that our business can speak and we can build a legacy for ourselves. Africa needs women. Africa needs women.
It's happening tomorrow. We'll come to that. It's happening tomorrow at Safari Park, so you need to get your tickets. Go online, just look for the Power Talks event, and you'll be able to get that information. Africa needs women. Africa needs men as well, and a lot of people feel that there's been too much focus on the girl child, and we have forgotten about the boy child who are now suffering. In fact, the joke is there are no men to marry. When you're looking forward as you grow older, there are no men to marry. They're just not capable men. Men get intimidated by the successful women. So you'll find Kirigo, who would have wanted to build her own house of Tarak, Nairobi, branch, is not willing to go down that road
because she's afraid.
the boy child has not been equally empowered.
I totally agree. You know, I'm a mother of sons, so I totally agree with you, and I'm worried about my children as well, because I think that they're coming to a world where they're going to be the same way women were in the 70s and in the 60s, right? So as a person, I've taken a personal decision to also mentor men. So I've been getting requests from young men to say, I want you to mentor me. So I'm more willing now than ever before, because I also think for a selfish reason, my boys will also need mentorship. And most of the time, the mentors are not usually your own parents. Sure. So I need to invest in them. So my husband and I also have decided that we're going to be having programs for young men. So a mentoring platform where young men can also be empowered. And I'm speaking to as many of my male friends. I think that women generally nurture more than men do. So the chances are it's easier for women to find mentors, because it comes to women naturally to mentor, and that we need to raise more male mentors. And if they are male mentors, then they'll be able to develop the next generation of men. So I totally agree with you, and I think that if all of us did our little bits where we are, the world can definitely be a better place. And
before I let you go, they say Africa is rising. There are those who say Africa is rising, it's time for Africa now. That those who argue that, you know what, it's just a bubble, you know, it's just that exciting little thing here and there, but it's not going to be sustainable in the next 10 years. I'd want to hear your thoughts.
Everyone has their opinion. I'm a positivist. I'm very positive in my outlook on anything and everything. I think that we all have to rise up to that place where it's not even about the narrative, it's not even about economists saying that Africa is rising. Are you rising where you are? And as long as you are rising where you are collectively, adding one rising to another, excuse my grammar, my rising, your rising, his rising, her rising, together, collectively we can have a rising Africa. But I'm reluctant to generalize and to say, oh, Africa isn't really rising. But as long as I'm rising, I believe Africa is rising. And as long as I'm ensuring that all those who are mentoring are also rising, and my mentors are ensuring that I'm rising, then in my opinion, Africa is truly rising.
Okay. Final words as we come to the end?
I love Kenya. It's nice to be here. I look forward to seeing more women tomorrow at the event.
Karibu sana to Kenya, and wish you all the best tomorrow. The Partox event is happening at the Safari Park, if I'm not wrong. If you just Google that, you'll be able to get more information on that. Tara is one of the speakers who will be there sharing, you know, her journey and telling us how to become a global brand. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
You're watching the Power Breakfast Show. We'll be right back.